This is Extra Sports 1300.
Drive Time Sports continues here on Extra Sports 1300. We are driven by Suss Superstore. Suss Superstore is your used car headquarters. They are located in Motor City. Matt Hawley at Security Service Field. Ryan Kaufman and Wheels are back at the Extra Sports 1300 studios. Right now we're going to go to the phone line and welcome in a guy who has been covering Broncos training camp for Mile High Report. And I'll tell you what, you want great Broncos coverage, you're not going to find it anywhere better than Mile High Report. Jon Heath is set to join us right now. John, always really great to talk to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, let's just some of the basic stuff. We're a few days into camp. I know you've been out there watching. What thing or two maybe specifically has really jumped out at you as you've been watching?
Owen Daniels has jumped out to me a lot. Manning's been checking down to him a lot. I think he's a guy that I wasn't necessarily expecting to have as big of a role as I've seen him been having. And in addition to him, the running back situation is a little interesting. To me, it seems like right now C.J. Anderson is the guy, and then Monte Ball behind him, and then behind him, Jeremy Stewart has been running with the third team a little bit, and he's been running really well, making good cuts. He ran tough today. They were in full pads. So I think it's interesting that Stewart's not really a guy that I was really planning to keep my eye on going into camp, but I feel like he's a guy that could overtake someone like Hillman and maybe even Bibbs.
Today was the first day that Peyton Manning got one of those scheduled days off that he's going to get throughout training camp and throughout the year as well. Was it odd watching the team out there without 18?
It was a little odd, but because Kubiak talked about it happening, it wasn't like it was unexpected, so we kind of knew it was coming. So in that regard, it wasn't that strange. And the quarterbacks, all three of them, Osweiler, Zach Dysert, and the rookie Trevor, it kind of all went up and down a little bit. Brock definitely could have had a better day for running with the ones, but he didn't have everyone there. Louis Vasquez also had a rest day on the offensive line. So it was kind of with the ones, but it kind of one thing because there were some guys out on defense, some guys out on offense. But Brock wasn't bad overall. He looked good on he had a rollout bootleg completed to James Casey that looked really good. You think if he's the guy of the future with Kubiak, he's going to be able to run the offense pretty well, at least manage it.
Hey, John, it's Ryan. We heard from Gary Kubiak in the first hour, and he mentioned the tackles, said that Ryan Harris got a lot of run. How do you assess through a few days Michael Schofield, Ty Sambrailo, Ryan Harris, those guys that are going to be kind of battling for those two tackle spots?
Ty, on his first day, had a really, really tough time blocking Ware's pass rush. But over those 2 days after that, and even today, he looked a little better. He's going to have some up and downs because he's a rookie, but I feel like each day he's getting a little better. And not only is the coaches coaching him up, but even a guy like DeMarcus Ware is coaching him up and giving him tips. And I think going against guys like Ware and Miller in practice is going to be really good for Ty. And over on the other side, Harris has been the right tackle, and I think he's definitely going to be their guy at right tackle going forward, no matter what happens on the other side or who's the number 2 right tackle. I think right now it's Harris' job to lose.
How has Shane Ray looked?
He's had some ups and downs. The first few days of camp, he was not very effective pass rushing, and that was a little surprising to me because he's also going against young linemen, and he's a young guy that kind of was known for his pass rushing ability in college. So I was surprised that he was struggling to rush on the first few days. But today, he looked better. He made a really nice inside move. He kind of spun around one of the tackles and got inside and got a pass rush and forced an early throw. So that was good to see. And he also played well against the run today. And Kubiak singled him out after practice, said he had a little rough time early on in practice today and got better as the day went on. So that's all you can ask for from young guys like that, just that they show improvement. It'll be interesting to see guys like him and Ty, how they play in the preseason.
And, John, not really a training camp related question, or maybe there is a training camp spin to it, but Von Miller's comments about basically, not wanting to throw confetti and all that stuff now that he's out of the drug program, and out of the drug program at a very good time, given that his contract's coming up at the end of the year. But in talking to him and watching him, talking to other people around the team, has there been a big improvement from Vaughn when it comes to his leadership and his maturity?
I think his comments about not throwing confetti and stuff, I think he's just trying to downplay it a little bit, the whole situation and what was going on with that. With his maturity, I think he's definitely more mature than he was when he first came into the league, but he's not exactly taking guys under his wings and coaching them up to the extent that a guy like Ware is. But it does seem like he's being a little more of a leader now and a little more mature, and they feel like they can count on him to kind of keep his nose out of trouble. They have confidence in him.
We are continuing to be joined by Jon Heath. He's been covering Broncos training camp for Mile High Report. If you want to get Broncos news, we would encourage you to check out milehighreport.com on an each and every day basis. We've got your colleague Kyle Montgomery on the show a lot. He loves talking about the offensive linemen, so I got to ask you another offensive lineman question. You talked about players who were specifically, really spotlighted after practice today by Gary Kubiak. Max Garcia was one of those guys. He was a draft pick this year. Does Garcia have a chance to compete for a starting job on the offensive line?
I believe he does, because he's the kind of guy that can go either center or guard, and I think that really helps him, because right now the other guard for Vasquez is Ben Garland, and I've liked Ben, and I don't want to talk bad about him because he's a great guy, but he's really been having a tough time in camp, and he's the starter, and they want him to be the guy, and they say that he's the guy, but I honestly don't think he's going to be able to hold on to that job, even if it is that he loses it in the season. I think eventually he's not going to be that guy, and I think Garcia is the kind of guy that could maybe fill in for that. Like, as they change up people on the line as needs be, people that can play more than one position are the kind of guys that you want to lean on, and he's one of those kind of guys, so I think that helps him.
Is there anything noticeable right now with Demaryius Thomas in terms of him still learning the playbook?
I don't know so much about the playbook, but he's being eased into things. He's not getting as much reps as all the other receivers. They're giving him some rest. He's been doing a little stretching with the trainers and things. So I think it's more of a physical standpoint right now. They're trying to just ease him back into the offense and not get him hurt after months of being away, just running every play.
Defensive line is such a question mark right now, especially with Derek Wolfe going to miss the first 4 games. Have you been impressed with the unit overall?
I don't know if I've been impressed, but some interesting things that I've seen is Marvin Austin, who they have listed as a nose tackle, has been playing a lot of end, and he's been playing well, maybe not to an impressive level, but I think he's playing well enough to where we could see a line where it's Austin, Sylvester Williams, and Malik Jackson over on the other side. So I think that's an interesting development. They haven't been getting run over or anything like that. They're not standing out in a good way, and they're not standing out in a bad way. So it's still it's a developing situation.
Every year in training camp and preseason, John, you know this better than anyone, there's always this training camp darling, the preseason darling. I remember a few years ago, I was infatuated with C.J. Anderson, and I bring that one up because it actually turned out, at least so far, to be a good one to choose. But through the first few days of training camp, is there anybody that maybe we don't really have on our radar that just seems to be continuing to make plays in training camp?
Oh, one guy that I didn't really have on my radar that much going to camp was Jordan Taylor, and he's made a lot of big, impressive catches in camp. A lot of people have been talking about him. He's been a hot topic. So I think he's kind of he's one of those guys that's one of the training camp heroes this year.
Jon Heath is continuing to join us. John, what do you guys have up on Mile High Report? What can people expect right now and through the duration of training camp?
We have some daily training camp reports every day. We've got daily photo albums. We've got some video highlights every day. We're not necessarily going to be there for all of camp because we have other 9-to-5 jobs, but there are fans there every day that write fan posts, and we're going to be promoting some of those. So if you're out at camp, write up a report on Mile High Report, and it could get up on the homepage.
All right, very good. Fantastic work on what you've been doing as you've been out there covering. Have really enjoyed it. I'm sure we will talk to you again soon. Might be able to get you on tomorrow. I'll be in contact with you about that. But nonetheless, thanks so much for finding some time for us today. We're very appreciative.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Very good. Jon Heath joining us from Mile High Report. Great to talk to him about everything going on at camp.